the year thereafter, in 1939, on March 15th, the German tanks rolled into Prague and quickly took control of the rest of Czechia, and Slovakia was also
yes, indeed.
separated.
And I haven't read it yet, but there's just been the third volume of biography of Chamberlain published in the UK. And opinion is still divided as to whether Chamberlain was just a sort of very naive, or whether he was in fact realised and was trying to buy time. I don't think historians have ever quite agreed on this. And at the time, Chamberlain was seen as a great man, and Churchill was seen as a
lunatic.
As a lunatic, yes. And of course, it is hard to know whether he really realised things are pretty bad and this is the only way of buying some degree of time, or whether he genuinely trusted Hitler. I suspect he probably couldn't have trusted Hitler, although many people were taken in by Hitler up until very late in the day.
Absolutely.
And Chamberlain certainly seemed to set great store by Mussolini, which is another remarkable. But we see even in the modern time that people do want, if they want to believe something, they will believe it.
Well,
however unlikely it is when you're sitting dispassionately from the sidelines.
Absolutely. We have another case in Roosevelt, the US president, who, according to most sources, had not just a strategic relationship with Stalin, but a personal relationship in which Roosevelt simply trusted Stalin and thought that he could take his words at face value. And today we have many people who believe that Vladimir Putin is a statesman which you can reason with and whose words you can trust. And
well, you obviously can't trust his words. And Mr. Prigozhin has demonstrated, the late Mr. Prigozhin has demonstrated that. It wouldn't be so bad. Obviously, you can understand if you lead a coup against Putin, you can expect to suffer the worst. But Putin having publicly kind of forgiven him, and then to go back on this, I think really undermines Putin's. I mean, even in the Godfather, they probably kept their word. They were just careful what they actually said.
Yes.
And so I think, in actual fact, the idea that Putin's word can be trusted on anything now is that doubt should have been removed once and for all.
Also, it is incredible how many people now, thinking back about February 2022, you had this war of narratives where you had, in the West, especially in the US, you had the US mentioning on multiple occasions that they had intelligence stating that the Russians had taken the decision to invade, not just to build up a large military buildup on the borders of Ukraine to try to pressure them into something, but that they had actually taken the decision to invade. And on the other side, you had Vladimir Putin, who was saying that all of these statements are crazy, Russia would never attack, Russia has no such plans, this isn't grounded in reality at all. And you had a number of politicians in the West, media pundits, experts on international relations, that really put their reputation on the line, saying that, no, the Americans here are the aggressive part. They are lying, they're coming up with statements that are not based in reality, while we can take what Mr. Putin is saying at face value. If they planned to invade, they wouldn't be this open about not invading. And then 2-3 days later, the invasion happens, and all of these critics become very quiet for a month, for 2 months. But the same people that back then were saying that this is impossible because the Russians need to be taken, their word needs to be taken at face value. Today, usually those people, they have not repented, they have not learned from their mistakes of February 2022. They are back again spreading that same Russian narrative. So unfortunately, you have some of these people who think that you can argue and reason with people such as Putin, Stalin, or Adolf Hitler. So unfortunately, in 1939, you had a lot of that. Going back to the Soviet invasion of Poland in 1939, there is also the debate about whether a declaration of war should have been issued against the Soviet Union. No such declaration of war was made by the Poles. under some pressure by the Western allies. But also the Poles themselves, they had some hope that, at least initially, that maybe this is some form of general chaos taking place. That maybe the Soviet Union and the Red Army are trying to take up slightly more beneficial positions from them, but that within a few weeks, a few months, the Soviet Union will launch its own offensive against the Wehrmacht. That naturally never happened. Instead, it was the other way around in 1941 with the Wehrmacht attacking the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa on June 22nd.